And I, in this game, haven't had the best of times, but recently I've been set a little bit of a challenge here on the channel from one Kendall K, challenging me to tame the AMG Mercedes. Now, of course, this is all largely going to surround the latest live weekly event, the Mercedes SL65 AMG, and we can see this is just nowhere to be seen on the most recent leaderboards, absolutely dominated by the Nissan R35 GTR. Now, very much contrasting vehicles, four-wheel drive versus a very leery bi-turbo rear-wheel drive. The SL65 isn't going to be an easy task, none of these AMGs are, but I'm up to the challenge, and these are things I want to be doing here on this channel. Now, of course, I don't own the car, so for this very specific event, driving in the 90s, I need to buy the SL65 AMG. I want to go up against the R35 GTR on a very wet, stormy asphalt race. With a max RP of 630, we don't have a lot to play with the vehicle, but first of all, I need to buy it. So heading over to the German Performance dealership, well, there's only one thing to do. Spend some more money that I don't want to be spending. I am trying to save for Season 4. I think it's around about 1.7 million. But I have bought the SL65 AMG, had to do it in black because it's a black series. But I think this car, one, looks fantastic, two, in real life sounds fantastic. I do feel the Mercedes are hampered in the game with the audio. I mean, just listen. They're not loud enough, they need to be louder. But nonetheless, I'm up for the challenge. I want to try and tame this on a very wet race and try and be competitive first and foremost against the other SL65s, but then take a look at that leaderboard. What can I actually do against the R35 GTRs? So having a little drive here first of all to get a bit of a feeling for the SL65. How does it feel? Well, of course it's going to have oversteer, but it also suffers with understeer and a lack of power. Heading into the workshop, first things first, get the all-road suspension on it. Let's try and save some PR. We're down to 599, so we've got 31 PR to play with here. Instantly, I'm thinking I want more power. I want to make the SL65 a bit more fun to drive. We're looking at exhaust systems, turbochargers, intakes, whatever it might be. I want to try and get some power, but I also want to be using that RP wisely. Grip, we don't need any grip. We're on a wet track. Gearbox, I would like to upgrade the gearbox, but it does feel good out of the box. Initially, we want to get that exhaust upgraded. Went with the race spec exhaust for the SL. Turbocharger, being conservative. Yeah, going to be conservative with the responsive turbo here. I think it gives us enough power, considering it's rear-wheel drive and it's very leery. Sports, I believe, yeah, we're going to do sports. Yeah, we're going to do a sports upgrade here to the piston and flywheel. I forgot what it was I was even doing there. Intake and fuel, we'll come back to that one. Brakes, I do want to upgrade the brakes. We do want this thing to stop just a little better. Humming and hawing between super sport and sport. Going to go with the sports, try and save some of that RP. You can see we've only got 2 RP now left to play with. Can't do any gearbox upgrades, can't do any ECU upgrades. I don't even think I can use any more of this on any engine upgrades here. Maybe a slight upgrade to super sport pistons and flywheels there. It's pretty much all we're going to get. 629 RP. I really don't think there's any. We could actually. Do we want to change that gearbox? We're going to be suffering quite a lot on the top end. Not to 60. I don't think it's going to improve all too much for me to spend 19,000 coins or credits on this one. I think I'm going to leave it. The gearbox doesn't feel too bad. No other upgrades I can see that I'm actually going to be able to do here, so we're going to come back out and we're going to see how, first of all, this feels with all of those upgrades applied, and then I'm going to head on over, build a bit of a tune for this one and take on that very challenge. Now, of course, straight out of the gate, I'm glad that we are on a very wet Hong Kong night, as we always do. Huge drift undertaken here with the SL65, which will come as no surprise, but I'm glad it's wet. It'll give me a true feeling of what this is actually going to feel like on that very race that we're about to undertake. Now, of course, we've got a lot more power here. We need to try and control that power. You can see we've got a hell of a lot of oversteer, but equally when we nosedive this into corners, well, the SL does actually have a little bit of understeer, so we've got a little bit of a balancing metric to take with how I decide to try and tune this car. The biggest issue, of course, is going to be traction. Heading over to the race circuit here in Hong Kong, this is where I always come to balance the cars. First of all, on the main straights, balance that gearbox, get it working the way I want it to, then head into the twisties. Find out how this thing feels on some low speed corners, where it's going to get traction, where it won't. Then of course into the high speed corners, where it does and where it doesn't get traction. Once I feel happy with this one, well then I will then head on over to that very specific race that we spoke about, and I'll want to understand how this feels. High speed corners, of course it's slightly unstable, but it's never going to be perfect. It's a 700 horsepower rear wheel drive Mercedes. But let's head on over towards that very specific race. Top right hand corner of the map, R35 GTR against the SL65. What kind of performance can I do here? Can I tame the beast? Can I beat the challenge? Well, there's not really a challenge to beat. Can I at least perform in the SL65 AMG? Now, of course, the race that we are coming over to do is driving in the 90s, a 4.5 mile wet domination R35 GTR against that SL65 AMG. And as we can see, times on the leaderboard, GR Pacuvius absolutely nailing the top spot with the 304, Ingus with the 306, Jason with the 306. But we're looking much further down on this leaderboard. Now, as you can see, obviously the cars aren't really populating for us, unfortunately, but we have to come so far down on this leaderboard to see the very first SL65 AMG. Now, that's not to say that anybody else hasn't done an impressive time, but as soon as they use the R35, they lose the time for the SL. But as it stands, I'm going to take it as it sits, the fastest time in the SL65 AMG is a 3 minute 24, 235th place. After that, it goes back to Nissan R35 GTRs. So the challenge is there, 2 minutes 34. Can we beat that time? Can we rank higher than 234th place? One shot, one take. We're going to give it all, guys. We're going to see how this one does perform. Of course, launching it off the line, we're not going to be anywhere near as competitive as the R35s. They've got that four-wheel traction advantage. However, we've got the advantage that we're not AI and we don't crash into a wall at the very first turn. So we've managed to pass first place into the first right-hander there. We've managed to carry enough momentum through the right-hander onto the power up into third gear, trying to find some traction. Fully committed downhill through this left-hander, barely lifting, just keeping that back end under control, but slowing down now into the right-hander, nice and tight to the railings. But the first little touch of the throttle, the back end steps out upon us. Into the left-hander, nice and tight to the railings once again, use a little bit of the curb, cross across the road, again using some of the curbs, unfortunately touching that railing, which I really didn't think was going to slow us down, but it did ever so slightly. We won't dwell on it. Down into the hairpin, a little bit of handbrake, but use the power of the SL, let the back end flow around, light up this back end, try and get some traction up into third gear, and we can start to push uphill. Once again, the gearbox, I think I've balanced this one quite well. I can push it up into third gear, use it for its traction where it's actually finding some, try and make this one up into fourth gear before the left-hander, but unfortunately the back end slips out as soon as I put it into fourth gear, dropping it back down to third, around this right-hander very carefully, because a little bit of understeer does still exist in the Mercedes, but we managed to hold it just a little bit with the back end now stepping out on us as we did move over the power. It's a balancing act, but it feels like we're doing alright. Again, uphill, try and get this one into fourth gear. We've got a big fast right-hander right here, crossing our domination checkpoint. Again, we want to get all of those first through the left-hander, and we can just push forward here to a very critical braking zone. We've got a right hand 90 degree up here, which is critical to get right. Pick the right braking zone, use the gearbox, dropping down the gears. Back end steps out ever so slightly. Maybe we've left a little bit of time on the table here, but it is a challenge and it is a very lady car. As it sits so far, it does feel like we're taming the beast, but we've got that snaking section coming up that we want to be prepared for. Fourth gear all the way uphill here once again, not really getting to use fifth gear in the car so far, but a nice early braking zone for this one. Drop it down into third gear, let the speed carry around into this, then we can start to have some fun. Down into second gear, a little touch of the handbrake, let the back end of this thing slide out a little bit. Third gear, drop the power over, again down to second gear. As soon as I feel that little bit of traction, slam up into third, and then rinse and repeat this all the way around here. Having these big power slides, it doesn't feel like we're carrying the most amount of speed, but it feels like on the wet road surface, we've experienced this before in other races, sometimes these power slides, these drifts, are what we want to be doing for carrying as much speed as possible. It feels like a reasonable time we're setting so far. Getting grip on that corner where I didn't actually think we were going to get it, but getting round that issue, through into third gear, into a very tricky right-hander again. The understeer sits here with the Mercedes. I tried to invoke some oversteer, come out of that corner, third gear, up into fourth gear, push downhill, try and keep this thing stable, cross that start-finish line. What kind of time do we manage to set on that leaderboard? Well, we do manage a 3-minute 13 overall. Granted, not the fastest time on the board, but a respectable 24th place. No other Mercedes below us, and we're exactly 200 spots higher than the next Mercedes. So it feels like, yeah, we have made good progress, good progression. Nowhere near Paku's time, of course. We're down there in 24th place, but I'm actually okay with that one. I'm actually quite happy with that time. It feels like a good time set on the board. One issue I do have here, though, one change I would like to see made: split the leaderboards. Have an option here. Select the car that we want to check against. This is a Nissan GTR versus SL65. Sort the leaderboards so we can see just the Nissan times, just the Mercedes time, then the overall leaderboard. That's a change I would like to see made for Season 4 and going forward. But hats off to Paku, Ingus, Jason, all the rest of you guys, 304s, 306s. I'm going to set an R35 time. I'm going to leave that SL65 AMG time on the leaderboard, see if anybody tops it. I know it's going to be difficult because a lot of people will have used the R35 and may not beat the time they have set there. But I'm going to leave my time on that leaderboard, guys. Let me know if you managed to beat it. Additionally, let me know your time that you've managed to set in the SL65 AMG. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, guys. I absolutely love the fact that somebody was in the comments and gave me this very challenge. I would love to see more of it. I would love to take on more challenges that you have for me. As always, guys, please do smash that like button, select subscribe if you have not done so already. And of course, stay tuned for more updates on Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown.